If you have clicked this video to know about Linux and how it was made, why are there so many distributions of Linux, what is the Linux kernel, or any other things you want to learn about Linux, then you have come to the right place. This is the first video of my full Linux course. In this course, you will become a professional Linux user even if you are a complete beginner and don't even know what Linux is. In this course, you will learn things like Linux commands, process management in Linux, package management in Linux, networking in Linux, and more. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It takes a lot of effort to make these videos for you. So stay tuned till the end and let's get started. First, let me give a brief introduction to what Linux is. Linux is not an operating system. If you thought that Linux was an operating system, then that is incorrect. Linux is the kernel, not an OS. If you don't know what a kernel is, it is the central component of an operating system. The kernel manages the system resources, including file systems, processes, and physical devices. The kernel is loaded up first when you power on your computer. The kernel handles things like input and output communication, process management, memory management, and device management. In short words, the kernel provides an interface between applications and hardware, making it a very essential part of an OS. Operating systems like Windows and Mac OS also have kernels. The next step is to set up a lab environment to learn Linux. This can be done in many ways. By installing Linux on a computer, installing it on a virtual machine, or running it in the cloud. If you went for the first option, that is installing Linux on a computer, then you need to choose a Linux distro. Here are some beginner-friendly and easy-to-use Linux distros: Ubuntu, Manjaro, Endavour OS, Pop! OS, Linux Mint, and Fedora. You can find the links to the official websites of these distros in the description. These distros are also recommended if you want to run Linux on a virtual machine. We recommend you to use either VirtualBox or VMware Workstation to run these virtual machines. Both of these are free to download. You can find the links in the description. These Linux distros have easy-to-use software stores to install packages. These distros are terminal-centric, which means you don't have to use the terminal to do all the advanced things. More on that later. The third way is to use it in the cloud. This way is for Linux users who are a bit familiar with the terminal and the command line way of doing things. Some recommended ways to use Linux in the cloud are cloud shells, cloud virtual machines, or Docker containers. Google Cloud and Amazon OS have free tiers to use virtual machines in the cloud. If you already have an existing OS in your computer and don't want to uninstall it, then you can either dual boot a Linux distro of your choice with your existing OS, or the other thing which you could do is use a Linux distro in a live environment by writing it into a USB drive. By this part, I am assuming you have a learning lab environment set up. Now we can begin by learning some Linux commands which are